Hey, my fellow Omi homies, it's Foster, and I'm back at it again with another VV and Ecomi video. Today, we're going to be going over a topic that I've seen circling in the community quite a bit recently, and a lot of people have expressed their concerns for the reserve wallet and buybacks and the size of the reserve, why there's so many tokens, why we haven't seen the buybacks happening recently. And I think it's just contributing to a lot of the concerns that people have overall with the market currently. We saw that recent pump up to 0.0049, and then we've recently experienced a pullback with the markets. We know historically, if you've been in the community for a while, anytime that the price goes down, that's when the naysayers or doubters pop up and start expressing all their concerns that they have with the project. So I wanted to take an opportunity to go over something and present a perspective that I think might be valuable to a lot of people in the community. Before we get started too much further, I did just want to thank everyone who has been supporting me on my channel. I started this channel because I just wanted to express thoughts, ideas that I came across with different aspects of my investment. It's not a full-time job of mine. It's not something that I ever planned to do as a career. Being monetized is not something that's important to me. At the end of the day, I put out content that I think people will find value in and that people in the community are interested in seeing. So it's obvious to me that there's a couple of videos that I put out recently, specifically related to interviews with whales who either have a lot of collectibles or a lot of OMI in the community. If you're continued to be interested in seeing that type of content, let me know because I am planning on continuing that series. But for today, this video essentially stems from a comment that I saw from Crypto When Wolf, who said, to top off the OMI reserve wallet at the current price of 0.0037, it would cost approximately 14.8 million USDT. That buys 4 billion OMI. Now, this is in relation to the reserve wallet, which is supposed to be at 300 billion. Okay, so the reserve wallet, for those of you that aren't familiar, there's three major wallets that exist. There's the reserve wallet, there's the vault wallet, and there's the burn wallet. All three of these wallets never enter the active circulating supply. So essentially how it works, and there's a lot of content creators that have made great videos on this, but to give us a base level understanding of what I'll be talking about today, when gems are purchased on the VV app, the equivalent value in OMI tokens is taken from the reserve wallet and moved into the vault wallet, where it is held until you make a purchase of a collectible. Once you make that purchase of the collectible, a percentage of that is then put into the burn wallet, and that is permanently taken out of the circulating supply. And when I say circulating, technically it's total circulation, in that the coin was designed to have 750 billion tokens, but only approximately 310 billion of them will ever enter the active circulating supply. And those are the tokens that me and you can buy as investors on exchanges. So we'll touch back on this, but this is an important concept to understand. And I've seen some concerns from people about why they're not doing the buybacks, why they're not keeping their word. We should be having these buybacks. They have the money from the drops. Let's see that reserve get topped back up from those buybacks and things like that. So I just wanted to touch and give you my perspective. And then, of course, if you guys have any comments or questions, throw them down in the comment section below, and I'd love to hear from you. So these are all based off of Ecomi Medium articles that I've pulled up information from, and I'll just give you my perspective based off of them. So like I said already, we know that the reserve wallet is supposed to have 300 billion tokens, and that the vault wallet is supposed to have approximately 40 billion, which was added for initial liquidity. Throughout the course of my research, as I've learned more and more about the project and had the opportunity to speak with people who have been involved in the project, it was brought to my attention that the reserve wallet was created with this many tokens in mind because they wanted to ensure that regardless of how successful the project was at the beginning, there would be liquidity in the form of tokens that they could move from one wallet to the other to ensure that the process and the tokenomics of the project were working correctly. And what I mean by that is right now, the price of the OMI token, as we know, is hovering at about 0.0037. So as an example, if we bought $1 million worth of tokens right now as a community prior to a drop, that would be 269 million tokens that are then taken from the reserve and moved into the vault. and are there available for people to make purchases. And then once again, when those purchases are made, the equivalent amount of that OMI is then moved into the burn wallet. It's just a conveyor belt process moving forward. We're at 2 zeros and then our current value. But you have to remember that this went back 6, 7, 8 zeros at the beginning of the project. They only anticipated having maybe 30,000 people on the app by the end of this year. They had no idea at the time that the token and the app was going to be as successful as it has been this soon in the project. So what this balance allowed them to do is essentially have that liquidity in place in case the OMI token was like 0.000005 as a current price, because what that would mean is then instead of, the 269 million, it could be 10 or 20 billion tokens at any given time that they would have had to have moved out of the reserve wallet into the vault wallet. And then what would have happened is that if they had to do that too frequently, they would have had to have made purchases off of the exchanges quicker, which would have rapidly inflated the cost of the token, which of course as a token holder would have been nice to see happen, but it wouldn't have been successful to create long-term longevity of the actual token itself. So what this allows them to do is hold that reserve wallet balance at obviously quite an extensive amount, but to ensure that that process can continue. Now, we know that at 0.0037, if we were to buy $1 million worth of gems on the app, we're only talking $250 million. And there's almost 300 billion tokens in the reserve. So if we were doing buybacks directly from the reserve as it stands currently, it would take forever to get rid of the supply. So I've ran numbers on previous videos. Some of you may have seen it, some of you may not, but we're talking like 30 years just to get rid of the reserve wallet. I am of the understanding, and whether or not it ends up rolling out that way to be the case, but based on the people that I have spoken to, that there has been a plan that was approved a few years back at the time, that once they moved blockchain, so currently we're on the Go chain, once they move over to a separate blockchain, at the time it wasn't known what blockchain that would be. We do now know that we're moving to Immutable X and moving on to the Ethereum network. Once they move blockchains, what they could do is essentially leave or remove a significant portion of these tokens. What that will do is accomplish a few things. One, I think the first thing is psychological. If we saw this number instead of 284 billion, it said 28.4 billion. I think people would obviously feel a lot better about it, just feeling as though some of those tokens have been removed, even though it'll have no impact on price because it's not a part of the circulating supply. I think the less tokens that we see, we're just inclined psychologically to believe that there's now more inherent value with each of those tokens. So for this reserve wallet balance to function correctly, it only needs to hold enough liquidity in the form of OMI tokens to ensure that it can cover purchases being made on the app so that it can move them over into the vault wallet. We know that as the OMI price continues to increase, if we were at a penny, it would cost a third less than it is now. So instead of 269 million, it'd be 100 million. So if you could buy $1 million worth of tokens and it would only take out 100 million tokens, we know that we likely don't need anywhere in the tens or hundreds of billions in order for this reserve wallet to function correctly. So based on the plan that was previously proposed to the team, what they would do is operate at approximately 2 to 3% of this current balance, which would be anywhere between 6 to 10 billion tokens. And then what would happen is the rest of those would just disappear. They would just move into the burn wallet, or they would be permanently left behind but not utilized. And therefore, all of the buybacks that are coming off of exchanges would have to be balanced with the amount of money that needs to be kept in the reserve wallet to ensure liquidity remained in the vault wallet. And this would be absolutely fantastic because right now everyone's asking for buybacks. Why aren't buybacks happening? But even if buybacks are happening, there's no reason for it right now because once again, we don't need this amount in the reserve wallet anyways. So the buybacks right now, although they offer something in the sense of we know they are slightly reducing the circulating supply, until we see the drastic reduction of the actual reserve wallet balance itself, there's no point. I would much rather have them wait because we know right now it's a manual process for doing the buybacks. I would much rather have them wait, move over blockchains, reduce this total reserve wallet balance by like 95%. And then once they do that, you will start to see those regular buybacks because there'll actually be a reason behind having to do them. Right now, we don't need them because there is liquidity in the reserve. Once we remove that liquidity and it becomes a necessity to facilitate buybacks in order to fund the Vault wallet, that's when you'll actually start to see those buybacks coming. And the best part is that we know all of those buybacks that are coming directly from the circulating supply in order to keep the reserve wallet topped up. So once again, I do anticipate this number, whether it happens directly with the move to immutable or at some point thereafter, to be drastically reduced because we can all agree the number is way too big and it's not necessary, assuming that the token price is at a level where it could support a much lower token balance. Once again, just to reiterate in case anyone missed it before, if we were at 0.000005, if we were to buy $1 million worth of gems on the VV app, you may need 10 or 20 billion tokens in the reserve wallet to be moved over. So if we reduce this number to 6 to 10 billion and we went back down to those numbers, it wouldn't be effective. So they want to make sure that as we move forward, all of these things are moving. It's a cog in the machine, but it needs to be well oiled and all work together in order to reach the destination, which for us, of course, is the burn wallet, because we know once it's reaching the burn wallet and these buybacks for the reserve are coming out of the circulating supply, they've been removed from circulation forever. Once that happens, as long as people keep buying into the project and they add forms of utility such as staking, OMI to NFT, the VVverse, and buying land and different items, all of these things will compound together and you will start to see, in my opinion, a drastic reduction in the circulating supply. When I say drastic, I'm not talking, from 300 billion, we immediately go down to 100 billion. I'm not saying that, but remember, each 100 million, a billion that's taken out of the circulating supply, 1 billion out of the 300 billion is 0.3%. So it's 1/300th of all the circulating supply. So even if we saw that weekly, we would be making a lot of progress. And that doesn't even include the other mechanisms that are going to be in place. So like I said, guys, these Medium articles are here. They're released by Ecomi. They did a great job of explaining all of these things, but without that little bit of additional insight and perspective, it may not be clear as to why they're not making certain moves or decisions that they're making at the time. My own personal opinion, I'm all in on OMI and the VV app, and I'm choosing to trust in the processes that they have put in place. And based on the research that I have conducted and the people that I have spoken to, I feel comfortable and confident in saying that I do anticipate this number being reduced. We do know a few months ago, Recent and AMA said we don't need a 50-year supply of tokens, which based on the numbers that I ran, like I said, 30 years to remove this, and then the active circulating supply, it'd be about 55 years for the numbers that I calculated. So I feel like they're operating off of similar numbers and metrics that I've used to run the numbers. And I know that they took a step back from it afterwards and said, well, we're not going to be leaving some tokens behind. I think they want to be careful to create a false expectation for the community, which is completely understandable because when people hear leave tokens behind, what they're hearing is tokens are left, that increases the price. And I want to reemphasize that even if they leave tokens in the reserve wallet or burn those tokens, it's not going to immediately increase the price of the token because these tokens will never enter the circulating supply regardless, okay? So these are important concepts to remember. I know it's a lot of information to throw at you guys, but it is a video that I felt was important to make because, like I said, these are very valid questions. And even as an example, $14.8 million and 4 billion OMI, 4 billion OMI, like that brings us to 288 billion. Okay, great. But once again, people don't understand why this number is going up and they're not seeing really the dividends of these being removed. Now, we would if we saw a 4 billion buyback and taken out of the circulating supply. Like I said, that's about 1% of the active circulating supply. We may see a price influence based on that. But even if it influenced it 1%, that's going to get eaten up one way or another just by regular trade volume and exchanges, right? So just understand that this may not be a catalyst in and of itself that is going to guarantee $1, or for those of you that subscribe to it, $10, $100, whatever the case may be. But it is a step that will be in the right direction to ensure moving forward, when these things start to reduce and we add in the other forms of utility, I believe that we're going to start to see the token move in the right direction. And I hope that all of you guys are there with me when it happens. Once again, really appreciate all the support. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, you're not sure about anything that I explained, or you want me to elaborate on it further, leave it down in the comments below. I always do my best to get back to as many people as I can as possible. Thank you so much, guys. I love you. Peace.